Welcome to today's topic, which is about having clear intuition through emotional healing. Now, I'm Seqkat from Enlightenment.com, and I want to look at the Priestess card today because she's all about intuition and she's all about healing. As you can see with the mystical cat tarot, she's actually surrounded with amethyst. And of course, when you think of a priestess, you do think of healing. And so what can happen is we can have clear intuition, but when we have bogged down emotions and an upset ego and a fearful ego, that can really muddy up our intuition, and we're not so sure what is intuition or what is our fears, our thoughts running us. So I was really interested today because what I was going to cover this lesson, I'm subscribed to Neil Donald Walsh on one of his little daily emails, and what he sent today was absolutely perfect. So I actually thought I would share it with you because it really did match the topic. Okay, I will just read it to you. All right, he said, it would not be beneficial to believe your mind on matters that are very important to you. Your mind can base its conclusions only on past data that it has collected during your present experience of physicalization. It has no knowledge of things existing through all eternity. In order to access data having to do with who you really are and why any particular thing is occurring, you would have to have access to data from outside your present timeline. This data is only accessible through your soul, and it appears in your life as a knowing. Trust this. It's absolutely perfect for today. So that knowing is your intuition. And that mind that he's talking about is what I refer to as the ego, because the ego is the part of the personality that was actually created by Source for it to experience our game life here on the 3D planet Earth. It's like a virtual game. Source, God, however you refer to it, is all powerful, unlimited, and can experience anything it desires. And experiencing through a game of limitations, so to speak, through 3D reality, and experiencing preference and contrast takes a not knowing, a not remembering that everything is perfect, because as Source does see everything, it knows everything's stories, it knows everything's a game, so it sees everything as perfect. Even your higher self is a Source aspect within you, and it sees everything as perfect. So the ego is the avatar personality through which Source experiences preference and contrast. And this is why it was created. So through that is where we feel pain, sadness, fear, and it's through feeling those opposites that we experience and better understand and appreciate the opposites of that. And it's kind of like from Neil Donald Walsh that I learned. You can't know hot without knowing cold. You can't know up without knowing down. So you can't know fear without knowing love, or to really understand love. Source is pure love, but to really understand it, you have to experience it as opposite, which is fear. So that is the whole purpose of playing with the ego. So the ego is not to be eschewed or hated or ignored. It's actually to be worked with. So in working with that ego, we have to learn how to heal it from its emotional pains. Because what happens as it goes through life and it makes experiences, it starts making a checklist, because its number one priority is survival, and its number two priority is to avoid pain as much as possible. So as it experiences something that hurts it, it makes a checklist. This thing hurts. Or something that nearly kills it. Okay, this is deadly. This really puts our life on edge. So it just keeps going on. This hurt, that hurt, that hurt, this hurt, that hurt. Okay, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do this and not do that. So anytime you go to do something that's even similar to an experience that you've had before, or an experience that the ego has gained knowledge that someone else has experienced that posed threat to life, It'll add that to the data list too. It's going to go, no, I'm not going to do that. And that's where the fear comes in to actually keep you protected and to keep you safe. But it can really mess you up when it comes to thriving, because it's so focused on survival that it will give up thrival for that survival. So to speak, even though it's trying to avoid as much pain as it possibly can, a lot of times that kind of backfires on it. It can leave it in pain because it won't reach for that thrival because of that fear of survival. So for an example there, the ego is in a bad situation already. It's not great, but it has learned how to survive in it. And a lot of times you will see this in abusive family situations. Somebody will not leave the abusive family situation when they could, because they know they can survive this. So looking outside of it, like, okay, they could leave this situation and that looks better. That looks like thrival. But what the ego does is looks and then goes, okay, that looks better and that looks pretty, but I don't know for sure I can survive that. I know I can survive what I'm going through right now, so I'm gonna hunker down and stay right where I'm at so that I can keep myself alive. So that's what's going on. And that is why it is so important to do that emotional healing so you can get to that point of thrival. Because your intuition is how your higher self speaks to you. And your higher self is always calling you to your desires, that which brings you joy. Because that's what the source aspect wanted to experience through you, the desires that it planted inside of you. We each have our unique desires because source wanted to experience itself as many, many different aspects. So that's why some people, you'll hear me use this reference a lot, cats and dogs. It's an easy reference, and I love cats. I mean, I do love dogs, but I prefer cats. So it's an easy example. Okay, source puts a desire in me that I really love cats. So I want to be with cats. I want to live with cats. And my mom, for example, she really loves dogs. So he put in her a desire to be with dogs and experience dogs. And you're pulled to that desire because the source wants to experience what it's like to be with cats with that desire through your lifetime. And that's just one tiny example. You know, I love to teach, I love to write. So those are my joys. So if I move towards those joys, I'm living and fulfilling what source desired to experience through me. And then when ego has all these fears and puts all these barriers up, no, I can't go to my joy. No, I can't write because of this. I can't teach because of that. I can't do this because I'll upset so-and-so. I can't do that because there's not enough money. Now we're not living the life of our dreams. Now we're not living the life that Source came here to experience through us. And that's why everything gets blocked and no longer flows. And this is what I call the fate line. I know there's destiny of fate and people, you know, there is always free will and there's so many storylines, but I really think you are called to experience your desires, and that's your fate line, experiencing your joy, experiencing your desires. And anytime you hit a bump, ego gets scared and goes off in the woods and to avoid that bump. But then that pulls you off of that fate line of following that joy and following that desire. And then you get blocked and things don't flow and things get messier and bigger and worse and you get lost in those woods. And you have to come out of those woods, and that's where you experience a lot more emotional pain and more stuff that you got to heal through and get stuck in that survival mode. You got to get back on that fate line, get over that bump, ask your higher self, ask your guides, ask your angels, the deities of your choice to help you. When you ask for help, they can cross over your free will easier and assist you, because they're going to always respect your free will. You always have the free will to say no to the joy, no to the desire. But know this, when you say no to the joy and no to the desire, you are blocking things. You're pulling yourself out of flow. If you can ever look back on your life and experience at a time where everything seemed easy, the doors just opened up, the right people came into position, and things just happened easily for you, that was a time you were following your heart's desire, you were following your joy, and you were in the flow. And anytime you're in the flow, that's exactly what you're doing, and it's really easy. Your higher self, your guides, your angels can line things up for you. But anytime you block it, say, no, 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 because I'm scared, this is scary, I'm not going to survive, this is really going to hurt, they can't assist you, and you are blocking yourself. And this is why it's very, very important to go through that emotional healing to be able to understand that clear intuition that's calling you to do this, so that you can understand what really is an egoic desire that's going to pull me off my fate line, that's going to pull me out of flow, and my ego thinks I want to do this, but my higher self wants to do this because my ego is scared. And then sometimes we'll get fixated on a desire we want because we're just trying to survive in this life, and we get accustomed to things. And I kind of like use the example that ego is like the little child. I like to use the example in Walmart, and it's sitting in the buggy, and the mom is there, and it reaches over and it sees the Chucky movie, and goes, "Oh, it's a doll. Oh, mommy," and he grabs it. "I want to watch this movie." And mommy is like the higher self, and she goes, "No, you don't." And she pulls the Chucky movie out of the child's hands, the ego's hands, and puts a more friendly movie in there that really would, and the child would really enjoy, and puts that in their hands instead. And sometimes their ego can get resistance. "No, I really want that one." The ego thinks it wants that Chucky movie because it doesn't really know what its true desires are, because it's not listening. The mom knows that's a horror film. It knows you don't want to go to horror. The ego doesn't realize this. And that's what we're working with there. And that's why it's very important for us to listen to our intuition and understand our intuition with more clarity. And emotional healing is the doorway to open through that. And I'll share briefly in my past experience in that, when I was at my rock bottom with abandonment issues at their greatest height, at some point I was having irrational fears, and I was wondering, what is an irrational fear and what is an intuition? And I was really confused and didn't know what to do, because all my life I've always been very intuitive, and I easily followed my intuition. But at that time I was at a place where I could actually see I am either having an irrational fear right now through my ego, or I'm actually having an intuition, but I don't know which one is which, and I don't know what to do, and I just like froze and got stuck. And when you know what to do, you'll stop following ego by mistake, because it's subconsciously running you constantly. Like, if you look into Bruce Lipton, he can scientifically prove it, how 95% of our mind is on autopilot. It's being run by our subconscious. And 5% is a conscious choice. And then dig further and go with just Joe Dispenza, and he will show you how that affects you. That 95% of that mind that's running you is coming from fears and paradigms of how you've responded to those fears to keep yourself surviving. And then he can also assist you on how to heal that so you can get back into thriving. He's a great source for that. I highly recommend that. There are many sources out there on healing, and one of it starts with that self-love as well. I highly recommend that. Sit down with your ego where it has pain and fear, and validate those experiences. Validate its feelings. It has every right to feel that way. A lot of times what happens, we will just shove those feelings under the rug. We've got this wiggle or waggle inside of us, and we're not feeling good with the ego. We're not feeling good with the ego at all. And so what we do is we just shove it on the rug, we ignore it. We go eat something, we go watch a TV show, binge watch, we go play a game, we go drink, we go do drugs. We'll do something to numb it. And that's the worst thing we do, because when we make that choice, it's like your ego is a toddler that really never grows up. It's like taking that toddler that's really hurting emotionally and crying and sticking in a bedroom door or something and shutting the door, and the child is crying, "Please help me, please have compassion on me," and yelling through the door, "Get over it," and walking away. That's what we do to ourselves, and that is not self-love. What we really need to do is open that door and go, okay, you just went through a horrible experience. Think back to an experience you had. Yes, it was horrible. Yes, it was painful. Yes, it sucked. You have every right to be feeling this pain. Validate that and comfort it. Give it a hug. Give it love. It needs that comfort and love through those experiences. Even if the experience was 20 years ago, it still needs that comfort and love. And the most important person that needs that comfort and love is from you. You are the most important one, because this is where you come in, loving yourself. Because when you truly love yourself, as we bring our inner world and how we are vibrating in our inner world, that's what we draw in our outer world, reflections of us. So if we're loving ourselves, then we draw people in that love us. If we're not listening to ourselves and hating ourselves and ignoring ourselves and pushing ourselves away, then we bring people to us, because that's what we're matched to reflect that to us. And those reflections are constantly trying to show us, is this where you want to be? Is this the experience you want to enjoy? If it's not the experience you want to enjoy, here's your opportunity to see this reflection and change where it's occurring. It's just like I've heard many spiritual teachers say this. You know, when you look in that mirror and it's frowning, if you want to see it smile, you can't go to the mirror and turn that frown upside down. You have to smile in the mirror. It has to happen here first for that outer reflection to show you. So those outer reflections actually show you what your inner vibe is doing, what your inner beliefs are. You can pick these beliefs up from your childhood, just buying into what people said to you, and you have to figure out what you need to clear out. If you're not being the ideal you, what beliefs are you holding on to? What energies are you holding on to? What data lists are you keep going back and checking that's keeping you in a life that is not your dreams? So embrace that emotional healing and get into that more clear intuition and get on your path of joy. That is the way to do it, because you are here to live your joy. That is what Source wants to do through you. And you have those desires placed in your heart, planted by Source itself to experience them through you. You have that permission to do it. So go for it. So that's it for this week. I hope it was helpful, and I will see you either at a chakra cleansing on the first Wednesday of the month, or another Wednesday musing where I just teach you how to get in your joy and to live it, or on one of my Sunday tarot readings. Until next time, much love and light.